as a result of the not guilty verdicts for Stacy Kuhn, Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wind, and Theodore Briseño, the 4 officers accused of beating motorist Rodney King. There's still 1 charge pending against Officer Lawrence Powell. That came down at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We had a lot of people react to it. We had a lot of pleas for calm. We had a peace meeting at the AME Church in South Central Los Angeles tonight at 7 o'clock. And then we had this. And this has been going on for the better part, Ann, I guess, of about 4 hours.
Yeah, I think basically you could say that all hell broke loose. And these inferno fires, as we've watched one building after another burn to the ground. For the most part, they have been burning to the ground. There's been a couple that the fire department got to real early, but we have watched them burn down to the foundations, and that is an unusual sight in a city like this with a top-notch fire department that usually gets there and has it out before our news trucks can get there. This has been an astounding sight to see.
When they're only dealing with 1 or 2, they can do that. Now they're dealing with, the mayor said 35 they couldn't get to. They're dealing with dozens, and they're dealing with their own safety. They can't respond to these fires without an escort from LAPD. And LAPD, in turn, is trying to deal with problems in other parts of the city.
The whole thing beginning with innocent or not guilty verdicts being rendered this afternoon in the trial of those 4 policemen. John North covered that trial for almost 3 months. We went to him every night here at 5 o'clock to get an update on what had happened. And he has been up at the scene at the courthouse. We're going to go up to him right now and find out what he's got to tell us. John.
And Paul, it's hard to believe in watching the pictures from Los Angeles tonight that all of this started here in Simi with the verdict at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Here we are about 40 miles from downtown Los Angeles. I have no idea. It would be interesting to know what the officers, if they know what's going on in downtown Los Angeles, and I'm sure they do, what they're thinking about this right now. But they, of course, after 32 days of testimony and the videotape being the centerpiece, the jury found that they were all not guilty with the exception of Lawrence Powell on 1 count. He may have to face another trial in May. They're going to find out on May 15th. They were obviously very relieved after everything that's gone on here. Their defense being that they were simply doing their job. They were protecting themselves from a motorist by the name of Rodney King, whose name has become synonymous with the videotape and will probably become synonymous with what's going on tonight in Los Angeles. It's something that I know that Rodney King abhors through his attorney, Stephen Lerman. Lerman had indicated that there's this one thing that neither one of them wanted as a result of these verdicts, even though they weren't happy with the verdicts. Earlier today, the only officer who spoke to us was Lawrence Powell, Officer Lawrence Powell, who was obviously happy with what had happened, concerned about his future, obviously, because he still faces a possible retrial. Briseño, Timothy Wind, Stacy Kuhn did not talk. There was a lot of anger out here, too, much of the same divisiveness that's started what's going on in Los Angeles tonight. Angry words, shouting. Rocks were thrown at Lawrence Powell as he left the courthouse. One of those rocks hit a deputy. Fortunately, he wasn't badly injured. It was just a scrape. The rest of them had to be taken out under guard. There was a near riot at one point when Stacy Kuhn tried to make it to his car with his attorney and people surrounded him. Some supporters, many of them protesters, very angry. Once again, the jury in this case, we haven't heard from, probably won't. They didn't want to talk to anybody, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the media. They left in a heavily guarded prison bus the way they've been brought in here every day for the past 7 days and have gone home for the night after reaching a verdict in a case that's been watched around the world. Reporting live from Simi Valley, I'm John North. Back to you, Paul.
John, very quickly, we were speculating on whether or not we would ever hear from any of those jurors. Do you think we will?
We may eventually. I don't know. Obviously, people are chasing them, trying to find them. We need to find their side of it. What made them decide the way they decide? The way they decided? What was it that got this not guilty verdict out of them?
I would think that what's happening tonight would not influence them to come forward and go public with it anytime soon. It would probably have the reverse effect, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. If you put yourself in their shoes, that those 6 men and 6 women, I don't think you'd want to go public anytime soon to anybody to talk about this case for a long time.
John North, are you seeing the pictures we're seeing?
Yes, I am.
You've covered this town for a long time, my friend. Give me your thoughts.
Oh, this is frightening to me. When I first started in the business, it was back in the 60s, and was covering some of the riots back then, and this is a very uncomfortable sense of deja vu. And what really amazes me and what's very unsettling is obviously this represents a small number of people in the community who are doing this. The fires, the devastation, it's an economic loss to them, to their own communities. What they're doing is destroying their own jobs, their own businesses, their own livelihoods, and their own futures. And it's very saddening to me.
John, isn't it true that in the 27 years or so since the Watts riots that a lot of the stores and jobs that were lost in 1965 were never replaced, and that's been a scar in South Central for all these years, that they lost all of that and it never came back?
I think you're going to find it's the same. Yes, in answer to your question, basically, yes. There were millions of dollars were poured into Watts and 103rd Street, that area now, which was then known as Charcoal Alley, and you'll still find some vacant lots along there. A lot of the businesses were not replaced or are now just recently being replaced. The first supermarket in years went in a few years back. Yeah. So you're going to see the same thing, I would imagine, in this, as a result of this.
John North, thank you for your report and for your thoughts. We appreciate it. We're told to go right now to Rick Romero in West Los Angeles, who's got something. Okay, Rick.
Now we're going westbound on the Interstate 10, and as you can see behind me, we've got a building that's pretty well engulfed in flames. A moment ago, we saw several explosions come up from that building. I'm not sure what is contained in that building. As we were driving, as I mentioned, down the Interstate 10 here going west, on the other side of the freeway, we could also see a car on fire. We saw another building on fire, and it's just on either side of the freeway, just fires here and there. Spot fires, fires that are obviously being attended by Los Angeles Fire Department, but some of those that are just being left alone because they just can't cover them all. As we look at this one, you can see it's a pretty good-sized structure fire, a lot of heavy smoke going up. We are going to head out to another location here, Paul and Ann. Just wanted to give you a quick look at this, and we'll be giving you an update as we go.
All right, Rick, tell me one more time. That's the Santa Monica Freeway. Give me an off-ramp. Give me a cross street.
That's right. The off-ramp, Normandy and Western, I can see just ahead of me. If that gives you an indication, behind me, it would be the Harbor Freeway and Grand Avenue.
Okay, we've got it. Thank you, Rick Romero, for checking in. We have some new information here. One firefighter is being treated for a gunshot wound at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. A firefighter's been shot. He is in stable condition. He was shot in the cheek. At Daniel Freeman Hospital, one person died from gunshot wounds and traumatic injuries, but the identity and sex weren't available. The hospital declared an internal disaster, the Daniel Freeman Hospital, freeing up beds, calling in off-duty doctors and nurses, and retaining day staff into the night.
We have another situation. We got to get right to Henry Alfaro. He's at the command post at 54th and Arlington, and there's been a fire reported there, too. Henry, what's happening?
My shoulder, you can see that this fire is right adjacent to the RTD. This has been the command post for the Los Angeles Police Department. It's also been the location, the rallying point for all of the city and county fire department units, as well as paramedic units. Earlier in the day when we were here, or earlier in this evening, you might say, we did hear some sporadic gunfire. There was some firecrackers, and as I mentioned before, I do know the difference. So it's been a real hot spot for about the past couple of hours now. This entire neighborhood, there's no electricity here. All the lights have been turned off. Now, right behind us over to that way, that's the Crenshaw Boulevard. And it's very difficult to get it on tape right now, but there's an orange glow over one of these RTD buildings. We were told that there is a series of fires all along Crenshaw Boulevard, all along the business district. Not only fires, but a lot of looting. And so it's the police have been coming out. There's so much sporadic activity going on that it's relatively impossible to quell all of the disturbances. But also they brought in a couple of battering rams, mini tanks. That's about the only way that I can describe them. What they're going to use them for, I really don't know. There's about 600 officers. They keep coming and they keep going, heavily armed, all of them. There's also the Metro SWAT unit teams that have been coming in and out. In fact, right now we still have some more black and whites coming in. That fire seems to be gaining momentum. It's a lot bigger. It's relatively close. And it shows that there is rampant activity going on simply because this is where the police hang out right now. But fires are popping up all over the place. Some of the people that were here earlier on the block have all left for home. But here are some of the police cars that are coming back. Now, I don't know if they're coming back or if these new guys, but this has been a location for about 600 officers. It's going to be a busy place throughout the night into the early morning. That fire, you can see, is still gaining momentum. I really can't tell whether it's a business or a series of homes, but all of a sudden it just erupted. We saw some of the, it was like a mini explosion that we could see, and that's the extent of the event here right now. Reporting live, I'm Henry Alfaro. Back to you in the studio.
Henry, earlier tonight, the mayor declared a disaster area. He asked the governor to declare disaster, which means that the National Guard would be coming in. We had official word that they were on their way. I suspect a good number of people watching us right now are fearing for their families and their safety. Do you know anything about the National Guard? Are they here yet?
No, as of right now, all we've heard is the fact that there's going to be about 1,000 men coming down here. They probably will be coming down here in this area because this is the focal point of all of the activity. There is so many things going on in this particular part of town that this is where they're going to be used.
Okay, Henry, we have information now that we knew earlier that one person had been killed, and we'd been talking in the neighborhood of a few dozen who had been admitted to Daniel Freeman Hospital. That hospital now says 72 people have been admitted to the emergency room at Daniel Freeman Memorial. Injuries ranging from minor to critical, according to the hospital spokeswoman, who said that one person had been killed. I believe that was a gunshot. Fire Department spokesman Bob Collis says firefighters have had at least 40 fire calls. Unclear how many were actually blazes. I would guess most of them, because we've already had word that there were 35 fires that the city couldn't get to. And we've seen a lot of them right here on the news tonight.
And we are assuming, of course, that that these fires are all related to what went on earlier today and what went on earlier tonight. I suppose there's a chance that maybe one or two of them isn't, but we really don't know that at this point.
Well, we've been watching a night of fires. Probably the fires are the single thing that sticks in the imagination the most as we've watched this night go by. It started with rocks and bottles being thrown and motorists being pulled out of cars and beaten up. And there have been confrontations between police and protesters, but the thing that really marks this night are these hellish fires. One commercial building after another, and Captain Ron had the newscopter scanning the horizon for us not too long ago, and you literally could see a new fire every time he moved a few feet. It was just boom, 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 one more, one more, one more. Most of them, we assume, burning pretty much unchecked.
Well, and one of the finest fire departments in the United States, and really hampered and probably feeling very frustrated, at a loss, because they can only respond to so many of these. And when they do respond, they've got to have police protection and police cover. We have reports of one firefighter already being shot. So it's very, very difficult for these people, and that is why you're seeing so many of these buildings go up unattended. They just haven't got the manpower to get. Now you see one burning, and right there you see two. They're pretty much gone.
Basically a bed of smoldering ash is what that big one is. It
you see
burned
people
right to the
driving
foundation.
by on the road. We've seen people going by when the fires have been going on. It just isn't. It's a situation that really we haven't been able to fathom its totality yet, and probably won't for quite some time.
City News Service reports unconfirmed news from officials at Community Youth Gang Services violence at two housing projects, San Fernando Gardens near Foothill Boulevard and Glen Oaks in Pacoima, and Ramona Gardens in Boyle Heights on Soto Street near Brooklyn Avenue. Unconfirmed reports of violence at those two locations. And we're just bringing you these things as we get them. We haven't been out to confirm that these things are true or not, but by and large, as we've had these little bulletins throughout the night, we have found them to be confirmed later on. So unconfirmed at this point, but reports of violence at two housing projects in the north end of town, in Pacoima and in the east side in Boyle Heights.
All right, we've got a report now. We had a report earlier that some Los Angeles Unified Schools would be closed tomorrow. Schools in the Compton Unified School District will be closed tomorrow due to rioting in the Los Angeles area. Superintendent J.L. Hardy and the CUSD Board of Education will meet tomorrow to decide whether to open schools again on Friday. You know, Ann, sitting here in this studio and watching these pictures, I don't know about you, but I think about my family. I know you think about yours. And you think about the people that are at home right now that are really worried and are scared for themselves,
good reason,
for their children. I guess all that we can say is stay in your homes. For goodness sakes, don't go out. Don't try to get near any of this. Don't call 911 unless it's a dire emergency, because they're probably overloaded. The fire department is aware of these